In this daily drop, I'm going to talk about the realities of how fast production can change and different ways you can handle that, and also talk about my viewpoint in terms of what I call the 2-week guideline when it comes to crewing a production. So let's go. All right, I'm still a little mentally exhausted from that whole rabbit hole I went down with Apple Log. It's not over, by the way. I'm still in recon mode, going to the higher ups, trying to get some more answers, more solutions, so on and so forth. But I needed to change the pace today. And I want to talk about a couple of things that are very timely. Number one, I was just about to leave for a 2-day production in Seattle. So what that meant for the daily drop was I'd have to get 3 episodes shot and scheduled so that I didn't have to think about that during the production days, travel and production, and also prep for that. So I was already putting equipment together for that shoot, not as a producer, but actually as a DP. So lighting, grip, all that stuff. And then the client was going to bring the camera systems. I was basically bringing everything else. So that happened, or was happening. And I got an email about 45 minutes ago saying it's a no-go. So why? Well, in this case, the talent that we were going up to shoot an interview with is sick, so we can't move forward with the production. And then you have to decide as a crew how you're going to handle that with the producer or the client that is hiring you for that work. Well, in this case, the company I'm doing the work for is a company I've had a relationship with for years and years and years. So this doesn't happen very often. It can happen occasionally with them and other clients. But 2 things are really in my mind as a crew member. Number one, they're an existing client, have good history. They pay, on time, they pay well, and I have a good working relationship with them. And number 2, it already looks like that production is getting rescheduled for a week and a half, 2 weeks from now, and we'll be able to move forward with that production anyway. So in that type of situation, I haven't put a tremendous amount of time. There's been time put in, but not a tremendous amount of time put in to prepping for the production. So it's basically a wash for me right now. I'm not going to move forward with trying to invoice them for time spent, but there are times you may want to do that, especially if it's happened more than once or you've put in a full day of prep for a production. That might be when you go back to a client and say, I totally understand the situation, but I've spent an entire day or a half a day prepping for this. And, is there anything we can do? And then you just have to work with them and they have to work with you and come up with something that you both agree to. All right, now I'm going to change the hat I'm wearing. I'm no longer a crew member. I'm a producer. And so for me, in those situations, the viewpoint is very different. For instance, I have a production that looks like it's coming up in Dallas. It's probably going to be, I'm going to say, a 3 or 4 day production. And it looks like it might be happening 1 of 2 weeks, one later in October, one possibly in the middle of November. Same project, we're just trying to figure it out. So what I have to do as a producer is first try to get the client to let me know exactly which of those weeks it's going to be. We're in that process right now. And once I know what week works for the client and what they're trying to do, I then have to start planning for that production in a way that I can carry all of the things out that need to be done. And that for me is travel, not just for myself, but if any other crew is traveling, accommodations, food, all of the logistics that have to happen, and then most importantly, actually crewing the project. So that's DP, that's camera operators, that's a data wrangler, that's a sound recordist, hair and makeup artist, a grip, an electric, or maybe that person's going to be a swing, so they're going to basically do both of those jobs. Depending on the project, I may need to hire somebody who has equipment. So maybe they have a 1 or 2 ton truck. So now I have to get into the mode where I'm planning. And that's also where I'm figuring out the budget. And that's also very importantly where which is something I do all of the time, soft holding crew. So I'm saying to the crew, it's going to happen, let's just say the week of October 23rd. And it looks like it's going to be a 3-day production, though some of the crew may be needed for 4, let's say the DP and maybe 1 or 2 other people. And so I'm asking them, are they available? And if they are available, please soft hold those dates. I also may have them hold more dates than we're actually going to be shooting because we may not know yet within that week what our actual production days are going to be. Now, most people in the industry are willing to do this. What you need to ask them is if you get challenged, please let me know, which basically means they get a call from somebody. Somebody reaches out to them and says, we are looking for somebody with, your skills, a DP, a grip, a sound recordist, and the dates of the production are such and such dates. And they're basically challenging, they don't know they are, but they're challenging the dates you have crew on a soft hold for. So what usually then happens is that crew will call you. And if it's a key member of the crew, somebody like a DP, that's really the time for you to reach out to the client and say, I have my DP, they're on hold and they're getting challenged for the production. Does it look like it's going to be these dates or these dates? Is the production moving forward? So on and so forth. And sometimes that can actually move the project forward a little bit. It kind of gets it going because it puts importance on it. Sometimes it doesn't. Or that's when you figure out that it's going to be different dates for the production. But in the back of my mind, and actually really in terms of my contracts or my proposals with clients, I'm always thinking about 2 weeks before the production. And the reason I'm thinking about that is not only for myself, but largely for the crew that is holding those dates. Because for me, what I want to do is I want to make sure that if a production is not moving forward, that I am releasing those crew members from those dates at least 2 weeks ahead of time. Now, in my proposal, in my contract with the client, it says if we are canceling or changing the project less than 2 weeks before the actual scheduled production dates, then there's going to basically be fees that are incurred by the client. Now, are they always incurred by the client? No. Again, you have to evaluate the situation, and that has a lot to do with your relationship with the client, but even more importantly, with your relationship with the crew that's holding for the project. But when I say a 2-week guideline, I basically mean that I always want to release crew members at least 2 weeks ahead of a production date, which gives them, most importantly, the time to find other work. I think it's what anybody should do who's producing. I think that 2-week guideline is very, very important. It's usually enough time. And if you're doing it a day or two before production, unless it's an unusual situation like the one I have this week, but I've evaluated it and I know it's not really a problem, then, it kind of sucks for the crew members and it's really not fair. There you go. 2-week guideline. Evaluate every project as an individual project and the relationship you have with the client, the relationships you have with your crew, whether you've worked with them or not. Don't forget to. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.